Okay. What, Jeremiah? Oh, well, I'm gonna look over this. Yeah, move on. Okay. So, listen, when you see this, when it says find F and that little O and the G, that stands for find the function, find F composition G. It means composition. A composition function is when I'm plugging a function inside of another function. Hey, that table might want to pay attention. So you're going to plug a function inside of a function. So what happens is, whatever function is listed first, f in this case, that means wherever there is an x in the function of f, you're plugging the function of g into that x.
I need numbers.
Well, you're not going to get numbers until you plug them in, and then you'll plug numbers in at the end.
Oh, great.
That's what confuses me
Okay.
with homework.
Well, we're going to have to practice it then.
We didn't do this last year.
Okay, so here's the deal. This is the function f of x is the square root of x. And they gave us a parameter x cannot equal 0. Okay, makes sense because I'm not going to take a square root of 0. Okay, this function g of x is x minus 1. X has to be greater than or equal to 1. Okay, here's what it's asking me. It is saying we want the composition of f of g. Okay, meaning I take the function of x, of f. F of x equals the radical x, yes? I'm going to do this in two colors. G of x equals x minus 1. Okay? When this is listed first, I am plugging this in anywhere there is an x inside of that equation. Okay? So you're going to get this, the square root of x minus 1. That's how you find the composition of f of g of x. Okay, that's what that's called, composition f of g of x. Okay, I plug g inside of f. Now, it says then find the composition of f of g when x is 2. So now that we have our equation, we are going to take this equation, we are going to plug 2 in. So, what is the square root of 2 minus 1? 1, because you get 2 minus 1, which is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. Okay? Then, you're going to do it when it equals 0. 0 minus 1. What's the square root of 0 minus 1?
Undefined.
What's the
Square root of negative 1.
I still.
It was what? It's what? I. Because you can
Oh.
have an imaginary number, okay? Because you can have imaginary.
I
Oh,
think
no.
we should
Okay, you can say I, or you can say, who said it the first time, undefined? You can say either. Okay? Your book is going to give you an answer of undefined. Okay? So that is what we are doing for this. Now, let's take a look at these next two parts. It's all the same stuff. I only did compositions today on purpose. Okay, we're going to make this one green, got it? And we're going to make this one blue, okay? Now, what is this asking right here?
To multiply the f of x times the
No. What is this asking, Alex?
The composition of f and g.
Of f of g of x, okay? The composition of f of g of x, meaning that I am plugging g into f, wherever there's an x. So I'm plugging this into that x spot, okay? So if my original equation looks like this, okay? X plus 2 for f, yes? I'm going to change it to look like this. 4 minus x squared plus 2. And then you simplify. What is 4 minus x squared plus 2? 6 minus x squared. So you're going to get 6 minus x squared, okay? Or I can flip it around, it doesn't matter. Just say negative x squared plus 6, okay?
I like that.
That is my function now. That is my composition. I put a function inside of a function and simplified it. That's what my answer is. That's all it asked me to do. Okay? Now over here, what is this asking me to do?
You have
Plug
g, the
x
composition
into
of
f.
g of x.
You're gonna what?
Plug x into f.
exactly.
4 minus
So-
x plus 2
Okay.
squared.
Good. Yes, it's G, the composition of F, so I'm plugging F into the G this time.
Yep.
So I'm plugging this whole function anywhere there's an X in the G function. So, it starts off like this time, 4 minus x squared. But it goes to 4 minus, and then you have to put parentheses around this, because this is a minus. So I have to say parentheses, x plus 2, and what is this whole thing? It's squared, okay? So now I have to do a little foiling, because there are 2 of those, yes? So I have 4 minus, and I have x plus 2 times,
X plus 2.
so I get x squared. I get 2x and 2x, which is,
4x
and I get,
plus 4.
but this is still in parentheses because I have this negative to distribute to it still. Okay? Do not forget that you have to put things in parentheses, because if you don't, you will not distribute that negative to everything it has to go to. So, I'm going to end up getting negative x squared, yes? Negative 4x, and then I get 4 minus 4, which is nothing. Now, this is the equation for the composition of g of f of x. Then it comes and tells us when x is 0 and 1. So what do I need to do to that?
Plug in zeros.
Plug in zeros. So if I plug in zeros, what do you get? 0. So if g composition f of 0 is going to equal 0. I know, it looks like.
Is it circle?
Okay, and yes, it's a little circle. Okay, and if I do g composition of f of 1, if I plug 1 in, what do I end up getting? What's 1 squared?
1.
So I have negative 1. And what's negative 4 times 1? What? Negative 1 minus 4, which is negative 5. Okay, so these 3 things are all of my answers.
Why is it not negative 1 squared?
Because the negative's on the outside of that, isn't, yes, you want to square before you.
Wait, I have a question.
Always. What?
Since this class isn't required by the state, does it mean we have to do this chapter?
Yes, because you
Or just
have
this
to
one?
have a 4th math credit. Yes.
This is the easiest math you can take. That's left.
Would what be even?
Yeah, it's like, it's pretty.
No, because the negative would be on the outside. When you plug in, you would plug it in like this. Negative times 1 squared minus 4 times.
I'm trying to take free algebra again.
Always leave it on the outside. Okay, so that is compositions when it's just straight up like, here's some simple equations, plug them into each other. Let's talk about when we're plugging equations into radicals. Okay, because this is where it's gonna get a little bit more complicated. Yes, Jeremiah, we're still going. I'm giving you as many examples as I can for this. Okay, so we are doing the composition of f of g of x, meaning I am plugging this equation into the x of this equation. Okay? When I do that, my original equation says x squared minus 9, yes? Okay, I'm going to plug that pink equation in over here. So I'm going to say the square root of 9 minus x squared, but it has to be squared, okay, minus 9. What happens when you have a square root that's squared?
Erases.
They cancel. So you get 9 minus x squared minus 9. What happens now?
Negative x squared.
Negative x squared. That's the composition of f of g of x. Okay? Yes. Okay. Process and pass.
It's like plugging things in.
It's basically
Nine
like
minus
substitution.
9
It's basically
minus
substitution.
9 is 0.
You just don't know which one you're gonna plug in.
Is it non-negative 9 minus 9?
No, this is positive 9. See, it's positive in here. Yes,
That's basically substitution, right?
it is basically substitution.
Okay.
Yes.
I like substitution.
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
only thing I understood
So
that.
let's try this one. Let's try it this way instead. We'll try it over here. Let's do the composition of G of f of x. Okay, what does that mean I'm doing?
Plugging the
No,
x squared
plugging
minus
in
9.
f or G. So I have this as my original, okay? Now I'm going to come and plug this into that pink x. So I have radical 9 minus. And then you would have parentheses,
X squared minus 9
x squared minus 9
squared.
squared, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I take the square root of 9?
Yeah.
What is it?
3.
Okay, can I take the square root of this? What is it?
X squared.
X squared? No.
I thought they would cancel
Look,
out.
this whole parentheses is
Well, X
Squared.
squared minus 9.
so it's just x squared minus 9. Now, 3
Distribute.
minus x squared, so I just get negative x squared, right? And what's 3 minus negative 9?
Plus 9.
Plus 9, so, no, 12. Double negative is a positive, so it gives you 12. 9, 10, 11, 12.
So why isn't it 3?
Wait, so why isn't it negative 3x squared?
What do you mean, why is it not negative 3?
Like the 3 outside.
You're not multiplying.
Oh, you're
Because
subtracting?
you squared the
That's a
because you
minus sign.
squared the 9
Oh.
over there, that's
I
a minus.
distribute this in.
You gotta distribute the negative first.
Yeah.
Yeah, before you distribute everything else.
Yep.
Okay, but the
Uh-huh.
thing up there did cancel out, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the square
Okay.
canceled out, yes. Okay, now, over here, we have this equation. F of x is 2x plus 3. We have g of x as
So
1/2
attention.
parentheses x minus 3, okay? And we want to do the composition of f of g of x. So start out with 2x plus 3, and what am I gonna do with 2x plus 3?
1/2 times x minus 3.
Okay, for x, so we have 2 first, yes? Then we plug this whole thing into there, so we have times, well, we're gonna use a bracket because that has a parenthesis. 1/2 parentheses x minus 3, okay, plus 3. Now, what happens here? What's 2 times 1/2?
1.
1, right? 1, okay? So they basically cancel because that would be in front of there, you know what I'm saying? So 1, okay, 1. So I end up getting x minus 3 plus 3. What does that give me?
X.
Okay, let's talk about this. This is a special situation. It's not a big deal. If you get the answer x, just straight up x, that means that these are inverse functions of each other. So yeah, there's nothing to do. That just means that they're literally the opposite of each other. The equations are opposite of each other, the inverse functions. So if they want you on your homework to prove something is an inverse function of the other, you're plugging it into itself, okay? And if you get x out, it is. But you have to check it the other way as well. You also have to plug f into g, because both have to come out to be x to be inverse functions, okay? So now we're gonna plug f into g to see if that's true. So we're gonna start with 1/2, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and then we're gonna go,
Current.
oh, yeah, we can go parentheses. And we're gonna do 2x plus 3, right?
Parentheses.
It's gotta be right.
And then we're going to do minus 3 like this. That's fine, we can do it that way.
Wait, hold on.
Or you can just do it this way, really.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, now, what happens there? What's 1/2 times 2x, what happens to that? X, it cancels, right?
X plus.
Yeah, I have to distribute this in, so I get x, and then what's 1/2 times 3? 1.5 minus 3,
This is from
yes?
domain is bond.
Timer, that shouldn't be right, that should be,
Oh, you did.
no, it should be inside the parentheses.
You gotta do brackets.
No, yeah, no, it's this way, look, this is a whole unit together, yes? So when you plug in, you have to plug in with it inside the parentheses like this. Mhm. You have to plug it in like that. Because it's originally in the parentheses with the x, you have to keep it in the parentheses with the x, which means that they will cancel out, because it's 3 minus 3 to start, and then a half times 2x, and you'll get x.
There we go.
Okay? So if it has parentheses to start, you gotta make sure you keep everything where it is. So those are inverse functions of each other. Now, the last thing that they're going to give you is they're going to give you an equation and tell you to break it down into 2 equations. Okay? So here it says write the function as a composition of 2 functions. Now, if you have h of x equals 1 over x minus 2 squared, okay, I need to break that down into 2 separate functions. You've got to think backwards a lot here. So tell me, how can we break this into 2 functions? What are some ideas?
H of x equals 1 over x squared.
Wait, do the x minus squared,
Yeah, you read it.
hold on. You gotta do the bottom into
That's
2.
what the problem says, yeah.
Do the bottom into 2
Like
separate
x plus
ones?
squared, x minus,
You want
I mean,
Yes.
x plus 2, x minus 2. And then do 1 over x plus 2, and then 1 over x minus 2.
No, because this isn't a difference of squares. That's just that the whole thing is being squared.
Oh,
Okay. So
You just
technically,
flip
I
it.
do have 2 of those. I have a 1 over x minus 2, and I have a 1 over x minus 2 in parentheses. I've got 2 of them, okay? But this one's hard. What's the question? What is a way to break this down into 2 equations? Like, I'm reversing it from us plugging it into itself and condensing it to those 2 equations up there, basically. Like, I need a f of x and I need a g of x equation.
So could you just, since it's squared, so could you just take the x minus 2 and then you should plug it equal to the equation over here?
Okay,
And then
kind
you
of,
have-
Cameron, you're onto something, that's good. Okay, so Cameron said since this is squared, can I just take the x minus 2 and break it apart? So I can make one equation, let's make the g equation, g of x equals x minus 2, okay? Because that's an equation of itself, yes? Okay, now, let's talk about how we get the other part of the equation. Okay, one way to write h as a composition of 2 functions is to take the inner function and give you g of x equals x minus 2, okay? And then we have to take the outer function, okay? The outer function, meaning, okay, I should have another function such as, that is in fraction form, like 1 over x squared should be left.
Yeah, but should be.
But here's the deal, 1 over x squared can be written a different way as well. How could that be written?
X squared times x.
What?
F of x times x squared?
No. Think about rules of exponents.
Wait,
You just tell us the right answer.
No. If I put something into fraction form with rules of exponents, pay attention. You're not paying attention, so. If I put something in exponential form on the bottom, that means it originally was what?
so it needs to be, so it'd be negative.
So the another way to write this is like this.
Negative 2.
Yeah, okay? So watch this. We can check our answer because we can plug them into each other and see if we get the right thing, okay? If I plug, let's say I plug this into here, okay? So we're gonna do f composition g of x, okay? That means that I have x to the negative 2 right now. When I plug that other equation in, I get this, x minus 2 to the negative 2. What do you do to that? Can you have a negative exponent?
Put it on the bottom.
Put it on the bottom. Do I get the same thing?
Yeah.
So you have to work stuff backwards piece by piece. That's gonna be the hardest part.
Is that gonna be on the quiz?
Maybe, maybe not.
Please no.
Maybe not. Okay? That's what you're working on tonight.